Chapter 1. The Death of Excuses. The weakest part of you doesn't live out in the world. It lives inside your own mind. It is the voice that whispers, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm too tired," or "I just don't feel like it." That voice thrives on hesitation, delays, and false comforts, and every time you listen to it, you feed it, you give it power. Eventually, it becomes the dominant force in your life. Excuses are not harmless, they're not simple delays, they are the roots of mediocrity, the silent destroyers of potential. They sound reasonable, even comforting, but they are lies. Lies you tell yourself to avoid doing what needs to be done. And the more you allow those lies to guide your choices, the more you become a slave to them. The first step to reclaiming control over your life is this: kill your excuses. Not tomorrow. Today. The longer you delay action, the heavier the chains of procrastination become. What starts as a single missed workout or a skipped task quickly becomes a habit of inaction. Soon, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're building an identity around avoidance. That identity will keep you stuck in the same place year after year, pretending that one day things will be different. But here's the truth. Nothing changes until you do. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from choosing action when action is hard. It comes from doing what must be done, not what feels easy. If you want to break free from the grip of your weaker self, you need to respond to excuses with immediate movement, no discussion, no negotiation. The moment your mind offers an excuse, meet it with direct action. If you think, "I'll work out later," stop and do 10 push-ups. If your mind says, "I'm not in the mood," that's your cue. It's time to begin. The secret isn't in some perfect strategy, it's in this mindset. Excuses are enemies, not options. You don't reason with the enemy, you eliminate it. Action is the weapon, hesitation is surrender. The more quickly you respond, the more you train your mind to obey your commands, not your cravings. Start with how you wake up. That first moment when the alarm rings is your first battle of the day. If you snooze, you've already told your mind that delay is acceptable. But if you get up, immediately you send a different message. I control what happens next. That one decision sets the tone for every other decision you'll make throughout the day. Build a morning routine that removes the option of hesitation. Get out of bed with purpose. Move your body, stretch, do push-ups, take a cold shower. Do something that requires effort. This isn't about punishment. It's about proving to yourself every single day that your actions are stronger than your impulses. Discipline doesn't happen by chance. It happens through repetition, through systems and rules you follow without fail. Create non-negotiable standards for yourself. If you've decided to train 5 days a week, then it happens, no matter what. If you've committed to reading every morning, then the phone stays off and the book gets opened, no matter how you feel. Every time you honor your own word, you become stronger. You begin to shift your identity from someone who tries to someone who executes. That shift is where true power begins. Excuses will always try to creep back in. They'll show up in subtle ways, "just this once," or "I deserve a break." But you'll know better. You'll recognize them for what they are: weakness trying to survive, and you'll crush them with immediate action. This is how the death of excuses begins. Not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent acts of refusal. Refusal to delay, refusal to surrender, refusal to let the weaker version of you win. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. Start now, not when you feel ready, not when things settle down, not tomorrow, now. Chapter 2, Discipline over Motivation. If you're waiting for motivation to strike, you're already losing. Motivation is fleeting. It comes when it wants, and it disappears just as fast. It's like a fair-weather friend, there for the highs, gone during the lows. If you build your life around motivation, you're building on sand. But discipline? Discipline is a rock. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't need energy, excitement, or perfect timing. Discipline shows up when motivation is nowhere to be found. That's the difference between the person who talks about goals and the person who reaches them. Too many people are stuck because they believe action must follow emotion. They wait to feel ready, they wait to feel inspired. But that's not how success works. The strongest people, the ones who rise above the rest, don't act because they feel like it. They act because it's what needs to be done. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." But preparation doesn't come from mood swings. It comes from consistency, from showing up again and again, whether you're tired, bored, frustrated, or uninspired. Your weak self will say things like, "Just rest today, you earned it," or "You'll do better tomorrow." It sounds reasonable. That's what makes it dangerous. But every time you listen to that voice, you give it more power. You train your brain to link action with emotion. You teach yourself that you only work when it feels good. The truth? Discipline starts when that voice speaks, and you do it anyway. Greatness is not fueled by bursts of passion. It's built on systems, structure, and repetition. An athlete doesn't train because every day feels amazing. A writer doesn't write only when they feel inspired. A leader doesn't lead only when conditions are ideal. They show up no matter what. That's what separates the weak from the strong. Non-negotiable behavior. Discipline is a muscle. If you don't train it, it stays weak. If you skip the gym today, it's easier to skip tomorrow. If you delay your work today, it's easier to delay again next week. But if you keep showing up, especially on the hard days, you build strength mentally and physically. You reinforce an identity. I do the work no matter what, and that identity is everything. The disciplined person doesn't wonder, should I work out today? Or, do I feel like reading? There is no internal debate. The decision has already been made. It's part of who they are. There's freedom in that. Freedom from overthinking, from self-doubt, from endless hesitation. Readiness is a myth. If you wait to feel ready, life will pass you by. The moment of truth doesn't wait, and when it arrives, it rewards the one who trained, not the one who waited. You want confidence? Earn it. You want strength? Build it. You want progress? Show up even when everything inside you says not to. That's discipline, and it's the only reliable path to anything that lasts. Every time you act without motivation, you tell yourself, I am in control. You prove that your mind is not your master, it is your servant. And when your mind obeys you instead of ruling you, that's when real transformation begins. It starts small. Maybe you commit to 5 minutes of exercise instead of skipping a session. Maybe you read one page instead of ignoring your book. But those small victories, they compound. They build momentum. And that momentum creates habits, and habits build character. Eventually, you become someone who doesn't need motivation, because your standards are stronger than your moods. So when your mind says, I don't feel like it, let that be the signal to move faster. When your thoughts try to justify delay, respond with speed. Turn hesitation into your trigger. The moment you pause is the moment to act, because the more often you push through resistance, the more natural it becomes. You begin to rewire your brain. Resistance no longer means stop. It means go. Doubt no longer paralyzes, it fuels forward motion. That is the power of discipline. And once it becomes your foundation, there is nothing you cannot do. Chapter 3. Hardship is your ally. Most people run from hardship. They avoid discomfort at all costs, seeking only comfort, ease, and quick rewards. But what they don't realize is this. Every time you dodge difficulty, you also dodge growth. You stay soft, fragile, untested, and ultimately unprepared. Hardship isn't your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. Pain is not something to fear. It is something to face, something to learn from. Every time life pushes you down, you're given a choice. Will you break or will you rise stronger? The weak choose escape. They numb themselves with distractions, comfort food, social media, mindless entertainment, anything to avoid discomfort. But the strong lean in. They see pain as the forge, the resistance that builds their will, the challenge that sharpens their edge. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of the greatest minds in philosophy, said, "Difficulties show a person who they really are. It's not the easy days that define you. It's how you respond when everything feels like it's falling apart. A life without challenge may sound appealing, but it breeds weakness. Comfort breeds complacency. If everything comes easy, you never learn to struggle. And if you never struggle, you never grow. Hardship isn't just part of the journey. It is the journey. Each setback, each painful moment, each failure you survive becomes part of your armor. It's how you build resilience, not by avoiding the fire, but by walking through it and coming out stronger on the other side. Pain reveals the truth. When you're under pressure, your excuses disappear. Who you really are is exposed. That's why struggle is so valuable. It shows you what needs to be strengthened, what needs to be fixed, and what's already strong enough to endure. Weakness isn't removed by comfort. Weakness is burned away by challenge. When you train your body, your muscles grow not because of ease, but because of resistance. The same is true for your mind, your spirit, your discipline. The more pressure you face, the more opportunity you have to evolve. Stop wishing for an easier life. Start becoming a stronger version of yourself. The man who becomes powerful is not the one who had it easy. He's the one who learned to endure. He's the one who didn't quit when life got heavy. He's the one who didn't break when things got dark. Instead, he stayed the course, kept moving forward, and came out unshakable. When your mind says, "This is too hard," reply, "Good, let it be hard." When your body wants to quit, remind yourself, "This is the test. This is the work. This is how I grow." Hardship is not here to punish you. It's here to prepare you. And the sooner you accept that, the faster you'll rise. Look at every challenge in your life, not as something to resent, but as something to use. That injury, that failure, that betrayal, that setback. It can either destroy you or develop you. The outcome depends on your mindset. The strong don't collapse in hard times. They adjust, they dig deeper, they push harder. They embrace the pain because they know it's the price of greatness. You will never become something extraordinary if you only do what's easy. Easy builds nothing. Struggle builds everything. So stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Face discomfort like a warrior. Walk into the storm knowing that every moment of resistance makes you more dangerous to your doubts. Stronger than your excuses, tougher than your fears. The goal isn't to avoid pain. It's to become the kind of person who can take it and come out even more focused, disciplined, and determined. Because once you can endure hardship, you become unstoppable. Chapter 4. Mastering your emotions. A man who is ruled by his emotions is not free. He reacts, he lashes out, he pulls back, he second-guesses. His actions are dictated not by purpose, but by whatever mood shows up that day. That's not strength. That's slavery. The weak man is a prisoner of every passing feeling: anger, fear, insecurity, doubt. His emotions pull him in every direction like a ship without a rudder. He lets his mood control his mouth, his hands, his decisions. And when the storm passes, he's left with regret, words he didn't mean, choices that cost him, opportunities missed. But the strong man? He doesn't let his emotions run wild. He doesn't suppress them. He masters them. He feels the fire, but he doesn't let it burn down everything he's built. He channels it. He holds the reins. His emotions work for him, not the other way around. Being emotional doesn't make you weak. Being controlled by emotion does. Anger, fear, sadness, they're all part of being human. You're not meant to erase them, but if you want to live with clarity, focus, and discipline, you need to govern them with reason. How many people ruin their relationships because they can't control their temper? How many quit on dreams because fear took over? How many make destructive choices because they felt insecure or anxious in the moment? Emotion is powerful, but without discipline, it's dangerous. Mastering your emotions starts with awareness. The next time you feel anger rise up in your chest, pause. Don't speak, don't act, just observe. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this emotion giving me clarity, or is it clouding my judgment? Sometimes anger is a signal. Sometimes fear is a warning, but sometimes they're just noise. You need to learn the difference. The Stoics didn't preach emotional coldness. They preached control. They believed that true freedom comes when you can feel every emotion fully and still choose your response with wisdom. A strong man doesn't explode when things go wrong. He steps back, he evaluates, he waits until his mind is steady before making a move. This is how you win in life, not by reacting fast, but by responding with purpose. When fear shows up, the weak man freezes. He plays it safe. He pulls back. But the strong man, he looks fear in the eye and asks, "What evidence do you have? What's real and what's just imagined?" Most fears shrink when challenged. They only grow when you avoid them. The same goes for anxiety. The weak man spirals into overthinking, letting worst-case scenarios paralyze him. The strong man breaks it down. What can I control? What's just noise? What can I do right now? This is what it means to master your emotions. You're not driven by panic or impulse. You move with intention. The battlefield isn't outside, it's in your own mind. Every time you pause instead of reacting. Every time you breathe instead of lashing out. Every time you choose logic over impulse. You're taking back power. You're building control, and over time you become unshakable. You can't lead anyone, not your family, not your team, not even yourself, until you learn to lead your emotions. So when anger hits, breathe 3 times before you speak. When fear shows up, write it down and question it. When anxiety takes over, focus only on the next right move. Build that habit and you'll notice something shift. People will see it in you, your calm under pressure, your clarity when others are losing control, and you'll feel it too. Confidence, peace, strength, because you'll know something they don't, that no matter what happens around you, you are in control of what happens within you. Master your emotions, and you master your destiny. Chapter 5. Self-respect through self-discipline. You cannot truly respect yourself if you constantly break the promises you make to yourself. It doesn't matter how good you look, how successful you appear, or how many compliments you receive. If you live without discipline, deep down you know you're living beneath your potential. The weak man chases approval. He wants to be liked. He wants applause. He searches for validation in other people's opinions, in social media, in compliments and attention. But no amount of external validation can cover up the truth you feel inside when you're not living right. You can't lie to the man in the mirror. The strong man doesn't need validation from others. He builds respect from the inside out. He doesn't talk about his standards. He lives them. He doesn't post about discipline. He practices it in silence. He builds a reputation not through words, but through consistent, relentless action. Self-respect begins with self-discipline. When you wake up early even when you're tired, when you train your body even when it hurts, when you keep your word to yourself when no one else is watching, that's where respect is forged. Not in the spotlight, but in solitude. Not when it's easy, but when it costs you something. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're telling yourself, "I'm someone worth respecting." But when you skip your standards, when you give in to laziness, when you make excuses and let yourself off the hook, you chip away at your own confidence. You start to doubt yourself, and that doubt eats you from the inside out. Confidence doesn't come from affirmations or hype. It comes from knowing you can trust yourself, and trust is built through action. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you follow through when it gets inconvenient? Do you hold the line even when no one's around to hold you accountable? If the answer is yes, then your self-respect grows stronger every day. If the answer is no, then it's time to draw a new line in the sand. The strongest men you know didn't get there by luck. They got there by showing up, every day, without exception. That kind of consistency doesn't just build results, it builds identity. You become the kind of man who doesn't fold under pressure, the kind who doesn't need a crowd to stay on course, the kind who walks into a room and doesn't demand respect because he already earned it. The weak man adjusts his behavior to be liked. The strong man adjusts his environment to support his principles. The weak man scrolls, compares, and distracts himself from who he really is. The strong man cuts distractions, locks in, and works to become someone he can admire. You want to feel proud of who you are? Then earn it. Earn it in the gym. Earn it in your craft. Earn it in your habits. Earn it in the quiet moments where no one sees the effort but you. Create rules for yourself and stick to them. Not when it's convenient, not when you feel inspired, but especially when you don't. Set the rule, I train 5 times a week, then make it happen. Set the rule, I don't eat junk food, then say no. Set the rule, I read every morning. Then protect that time like your life depends on it, because in a way it does. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity determines what kind of life you'll build. You don't need people to respect you if you respect yourself. And once you live like that, something powerful happens. Others begin to respect you not because you ask them to, but because you've become the kind of man who commands it without a word. So stop chasing approval. Start chasing discipline. Because the man who builds himself from within, who shows up, stays committed, and lives by a code, needs no applause. His life is the proof. Live in such a way that your character speaks louder than your words. Let your work talk. Let your consistency talk. Let your self-discipline speak for you. That is the path to true self-respect. Chapter 6. The Art of Endurance. Anyone can start strong. Anyone can be fired up on day one. But very few have the strength to keep going when it's no longer exciting. When it's hard, lonely, and inconvenient. That's where endurance separates the average from the elite. Endurance isn't about speed, it's not about talent. It's about refusing to quit. It's about showing up again and again, even when your mind screams to stop, even when your body aches, even when you feel like nothing is working. The weak man looks for shortcuts. He wants quick results, the first sign of struggle, and he backs off, convincing himself that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But the strong man, he endures. He doesn't fear the long road, he embraces it. He knows that the most valuable things in life don't come to those who are the fastest or most gifted. They come to those who stay in the fight. Every great accomplishment, physical, mental, spiritual, was built by someone who refused to give in. Someone who kept showing up long after motivation was gone. Someone who endured. Endurance is a skill, a discipline, a mindset. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build by leaning into discomfort instead of running from it. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus taught that peace doesn't come from getting your way. It comes from learning to accept what life throws at you and still choosing your path. That doesn't mean you surrender to hardship. It means you use it. The hard things you face today are shaping the strength you'll need tomorrow. The adversity you carry now is forging the toughness that will protect you in bigger battles later. Endurance isn't about surviving. It's about growing stronger through the struggle. When you endure, you don't just outlast the pain, you learn from it. You sharpen your mind. You prove to yourself that you're more capable than you believed. Every time you push one step further than you wanted to, you expand your limits. But here's the truth. You won't build endurance unless you put yourself in the fire. Don't wait for life to test you. Test yourself daily. Choose discomfort, train when you're tired, work when you'd rather rest, study when your mind wants to wander, discipline your mind to move forward when it would be easier to stop. Start doing things that stretch you, that frustrate you, that make you uncomfortable, because those are the things that build grit. That's where real growth happens. Endurance isn't flashy, it doesn't get the spotlight, but it's what keeps you standing when others fall. Most people panic under pressure. They get emotional. They break down. But the strong man remains calm. He breathes through the chaos. He adapts. He keeps moving forward one controlled step at a time. That kind of control only comes from practice, from exposure to pressure, from choosing struggle over ease until it becomes second nature. Every time you keep going when it would be easier to quit, you grow. Every time you finish something when your mind begs you to stop, you build something unshakable inside. That's endurance, not just pushing once, but pushing endlessly. The world will wear you down if you let it. Life will test your patience, your focus, your stamina. If you're soft, you'll fold. If you're undisciplined, you'll drift. But if you've trained yourself to endure, you'll hold the line. Your body might be tired. Your mind might be stretched, but your spirit stays locked in. And that's the man no one can stop. So build this into your daily life. Wake up and seek out challenges. Not because you love the pain, but because you love who it turns you into. Because you know the man you want to become will only be forged through resistance. Endurance is not about enjoying the storm, it's about learning to walk through it with your head held high. Discipline makes you start, endurance makes you finish, and in a world full of quitters, that alone makes you rare. Chapter 7. The Power of Solitude. Weak men fear being alone, not because they dislike silence, but because in silence they're forced to face themselves. Without distractions, they come face to face with their flaws, their fears, their regrets. So they keep noise around them. Screens, social media, shallow conversation, anything to avoid being left alone with their own thoughts. But the strong man embraces solitude, not as isolation, but as a weapon, a tool for clarity, a place of refinement. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is where a man sharpens his mind. When you strip away the chaos of the world, the endless opinions, noise, and comparison, you begin to see clearly. You see who you really are. You see what needs to be fixed, what needs to be strengthened, what needs to be cut off completely, and most importantly, you begin to hear your own voice again. The man who never spends time alone never truly knows himself. He's always reacting, always influenced, always drifting in and out of what the world wants from him. But the man who learns to sit in silence, think deeply, and reflect with honesty, that man becomes dangerous because he becomes grounded, rooted, untouchable by the shallow winds of opinion. Seneca once said, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company." Think about that. If you can't sit alone for even 30 minutes without reaching for a phone, a screen, or a distraction, you don't have control. You're being led by your impulses, by your craving for noise, and that noise is the enemy of growth. Great decisions aren't made in chaos, they're made in stillness. In solitude, you confront the real questions. Who am I becoming? What am I tolerating that I shouldn't be? Where am I hiding from responsibility? What do I want to create, not for the world, but for myself? A strong man uses solitude to audit his behavior, clarify his goals, and refocus his energy. He doesn't fear the quiet, he thrives in it. Because in that quiet he builds strength that no one can see. The man who lives constantly surrounded by noise will always be ruled by it. He's reactionary. He's distracted. He needs validation to feel worthy. But the man who is comfortable being alone becomes independent, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and independence is power. When you stop chasing approval, when you stop fearing your own thoughts, when you stop needing the world to affirm your worth, you begin to lead yourself. That's where true strength is born. Solitude is where discipline takes root. It's where your principles are reinforced. It's where your next move is crafted with clarity instead of chaos. You want focus? Get quiet. You want direction? Cut the noise. You want to rise above the average? Learn to enjoy your own company. It doesn't mean you isolate forever. It doesn't mean you avoid people. It means you stop being dependent on them. Because if you need constant input from others to feel okay, then you're not standing on solid ground. Strong men use solitude like a warrior sharpens his blade. They don't just sit in silence. They study themselves. They observe their thoughts without judgment. They refine their standards. And they come out of that stillness with certainty that can't be shaken. So build it into your life. Set aside time to think. No phone, no music, no scrolling. Just you and your mind. Ask the hard questions. Face the honest answers. Solitude isn't a punishment. It's the proving ground of self-mastery. The man who can sit quietly and be at peace with who he is. That man is dangerous. Because he isn't swayed by popularity. He isn't manipulated by fear, and he doesn't move according to trends. He moves with purpose. Learn to lead yourself in silence, and you'll never again be led by the noise. Chapter 8. Controlling the chaos of the mind. A man who cannot control his mind will never control his life. He may have strength, skill, or even success, but if his thoughts run wild, if emotions pull him in every direction, he'll always be at the mercy of chaos. Mental chaos is the silent killer of potential. Most people don't lose the battle externally. They lose it inside their own heads. Their thoughts are scattered. Their focus is weak. Their emotions take over and they drown in overthinking, regret, and anxiety. They live in reaction mode, constantly chasing, constantly worried, constantly distracted. But a strong man masters the battlefield within. He doesn't let every thought take root. He doesn't follow every emotion blindly. He trains his mind the same way he trains his body, with intention, discipline, and repetition. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts get to stay. Without control, your mind will drift into fear, into doubt, into mental loops that sabotage progress. But with control, your mind becomes your sharpest weapon, focused, precise, and unshakable. The Stoics believed that the mind is the only thing you truly own. You can't control the world, but you can always choose how you interpret it. And that power, when fully developed, makes you untouchable. Here's the truth. If you don't filter your thoughts, they'll control you. If you don't choose what to focus on, the world will choose for you. And if you don't learn to calm your mind, it will create storms where none exist. A weak mind worries about everything. It replays old failures. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It reacts emotionally to every inconvenience. But a strong mind? It pauses, it filters, it chooses. When fear shows up, the strong man doesn't panic, he assesses. When doubt creeps in, he doesn't spiral, he investigates. When anxiety rises, he doesn't freeze, he focuses on what he can control. That's not natural, it's trained. Mental discipline is not something you're born with. It's built, one decision at a time, one controlled thought at a time. You must learn to observe your mind like a general watches a battlefield. What patterns keep showing up? What triggers keep pulling you off course? Where does your mind wander when left unchecked? Study it, track it, and then take control of it. Start small. The moment you catch a negative thought, don't let it grow. Replace it, challenge it, reframe it. If your mind says, I can't do this, reply, I've done harder things. If it says, what if I fail? Answer, then I learn and get stronger. If it says, I'm not ready, remind yourself, no one ever is. I move anyway. This is how you begin to break the cycle of mental weakness by fighting back thought by thought. Because over time, those small battles add up. You start to think differently. You become harder to shake, more focused, more clear, more in control. Distractions will still come, but they won't rule you. Emotions will still rise, but they won't guide you. The world will still pressure you, but it won't break you. You'll have built a fortress in your mind, and from that place you can lead. You can build, you can endure, but let this be clear. A weak mind leads to a weak life. If you leave your thoughts untrained, they will sabotage every goal, every relationship, every opportunity. You'll be stuck in cycles of procrastination, insecurity, and self-sabotage. You must take ownership of your inner world before it owns you. Train it through daily practice. Meditation, focused breathing, journaling, cutting out noise, challenging irrational beliefs, sharpening your focus like a blade, because once you control your mind, you control your direction. And when you control your direction, the world no longer pushes you around. You move with intention on your own terms. Don't let your mind become your prison. Make it your weapon. Tame the chaos, and you'll unleash unstoppable clarity. Chapter 9. The Warrior's Mentality. Life is not a playground, it's a battlefield, and if you want to lead, to build anything of worth, you need more than motivation. You need a warrior's mentality, a mindset that doesn't break under pressure, doesn't fold when it gets hard, and never backs down in the face of fear. The weak man avoids conflict. He dodges discomfort. He shrinks when things get difficult. He looks for the easy road and calls it smart. But the truth is, he's hiding from challenge, from responsibility, from becoming who he could be. The strong man, he welcomes the battle. He doesn't hope for an easy life, he trains for a hard one. He prepares himself mentally, physically, and spiritually to withstand more than the average man. And in doing so, he becomes more than the average man. A warrior doesn't wait for the perfect moment. He creates it. He doesn't need things to be easy. He doesn't need conditions to be fair. He just needs one thing, the chance to fight. Because that's where he thrives, in the fire, in the resistance, in the struggle that shapes his edge. The warrior doesn't run from fear. He confronts it. He studies it. He moves forward anyway, because he understands a simple truth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. Setbacks don't stop him. They sharpen him. Pain doesn't weaken him. It prepares him. Failure doesn't define him. It refines him. When others quit, he keeps going. When others complain, he adapts. When others doubt, he doubles down. The warrior mentality is built on one principle: no retreat, no surrender. It's not just about fighting external enemies. It's about conquering the enemy within: laziness, fear, doubt, and weakness. The warrior doesn't just train his body, he trains his mind to reject excuses and embrace discipline. The battle isn't only in the gym or the field or the office. It's in the small decisions you make every day. Do you hit snooze or rise immediately? Do you skip the work or attack it head on? Do you make excuses or do you execute? The warrior never lets weakness speak louder than purpose. He lives by a code, a personal standard that does not bend to emotion, convenience, or opinion. He doesn't just want to win. He wants to become someone worthy of winning. That kind of man isn't built in comfort. He's built through suffering, through repetition, through daily war with his lesser self. He doesn't complain about the weight on his shoulders. He carries it with pride, because he knows that struggle is not punishment, it's preparation. And when the storm comes, and it always does, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't look around for someone to save him. He stands firm, sharp, focused, ready. That is the warrior's edge. The refusal to break, the obsession with progress, the calm in the middle of chaos. You don't need to be born strong. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to decide that from this point forward, you will not quit. You will not lower your standards. You will not hand over your power to fear, laziness, or circumstance. You will fight every day for discipline, for control, for greatness. So ask yourself, when it gets hard, will you fold or will you rise? When fear knocks, will you hide or will you advance? When no one's watching, will you still hold the line? If you want to lead, if you want to build, if you want to earn true strength, you must train like a warrior. Think like a warrior. Live like a warrior. Because in the end, it's not the most talented who win. It's the most relentless. Chapter 10. The Legacy of Strength. Your life is more than a series of habits. More than routines, goals, or wins. In the end, your life becomes your legacy, the mark you leave behind, the example you set, the standard you choose to live by every single day. Weak men leave behind excuses, broken promises, regret. They drift through life waiting for someday. They waste time hoping things will get better without ever doing what it takes to make them better. And when their time runs out, they realize they never truly lived. But the strong man, he knows from the start, time is limited. And because of that, every choice matters. He doesn't live passively, he lives deliberately. He doesn't just chase success, he builds something that lasts. A name that carries weight, a presence that impacts people long after he's gone. That is the legacy of strength. Legacy is not built in comfort, it's built in struggle. It's built in sacrifice. It's built through years of discipline, devotion, and the courage to keep going when others quit. Seneca once said, "Life is long if you know how to use it." Most people waste it. Scrolling, numbing, avoiding, they let days, months, and years pass while doing nothing that truly matters. They confuse motion with progress, comfort with peace, validation with self-worth. But the man committed to legacy lives differently. He doesn't ask, what feels good today? He asks, what will matter 10 years from now? He doesn't waste time impressing strangers. He doesn't live for applause. He lives for impact, for meaning, for honor. Legacy isn't about being famous. It's about being respected by the people who actually knew how you lived. It's about being remembered for your consistency, your strength, your standards, your example. And legacy doesn't begin at the end. It begins right now, in how you treat people, how you show up, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. It's in how you respond to pressure, how you honor your word, how you live when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Your legacy is built each time you wake up early, even when you're tired, each time you train when no one is cheering, each time you choose principle over convenience. Each time you refuse to fold when quitting would have been easier. That's what makes a man unforgettable. Not talk, not ego, but consistency in the dark. People will remember how you made them feel, how you led by example. Whether you stood firm in the face of adversity or caved when it got uncomfortable. They'll remember if you were someone who gave up or someone who showed up, regardless of how you felt. The man who lives with purpose doesn't fear death. He knows he gave everything. He emptied himself. He didn't wait for the perfect time. He created it. Your legacy is your proof that you didn't just exist. You built, you led, you pushed through, you lived with intention. Don't just aim to be successful, aim to be respected, not by millions, but by the few who saw the truth of who you were, disciplined, reliable, relentless. Be the man others point to and say, he didn't just talk about it, he lived it. Build yourself into a force, someone who doesn't need to seek approval because his actions speak louder than words. Someone who doesn't need to convince people of his value because his presence already proves it. Your name is your legacy, and every day you're writing it. So write it well, write it with fire, write it with honor. Because in the end, strength isn't just what you build for yourself. It's what you leave behind for others to rise from. Be the standard. Be the example. Be the man who lived with purpose and left a legacy that will never fade.